Brawl is notorious for introducing strange and creative movement options such as glide tossing, pivot rolling, and the classic dash attack cancel up smash. But most people who don't play Brawl regularly forget about a niche mechanic only awarded to 3 different characters. Today we're talking about gliding, perhaps the weirdest movement mechanic ever introduced in a Smash title. Hi everyone, real quick, I saved up a bit and quit my terrible retail job. I'll be working on Brawl Alternative full-time for a couple months just to kind of test the waters and see if it's a viable option for me. Because this is a financially questionable decision, I set up a Patreon and a Ko-fi that you can support me if you would like to. And thank you so much for all the support you guys have already given me, and that's all I've got to say. Back to the video. As I mentioned in the intro, there are lots of movement mechanics that Brawl introduced. Glide tossing allows you to cancel your roll to throw an item. Pivot rolling lets characters with terrible rolls like Zero Suit Samus pivot at the last moment and use their other, faster roll instead. And Dacus, or Dash Attack Cancel Up Smash, is famously one of the most beloved mechanics Brawl accidentally introduced, giving certain characters a strong, fluid, and stylish burst option that often defined their playstyles. But for some reason, Brawl purposefully introduced a niche mechanic that was only given to characters sporting wings of their own, and there are only 3 of these characters total: Pit, Charizard, and, of course, Meta Knight. Each of these characters has more than 2 jumps, the standard for most of the rest of the cast. If you press the jump button, then use your mid-air jump, but keep the button held down that time, your character will initiate a glide. And if you crash land into the ground while gliding, each character has a unique crash land animation, which is fairly laggy and definitely punishable. The glide is physics-based and lasts indefinitely as long as you can keep up some sort of momentum or don't run out of screen. At any point during the glide, you can do a glide attack, which is an entire extra aerial that does 12% and is only given to these 3 characters, and then never put back in a Smash title ever again. Something interesting to note about the glide attack is that landing while using the glide attack actually activates an auto cancel, something that regular aerials have a window for. If you use a regular aerial on a regular character, there's a window in which landing will have very little end lag, letting you use the attack, land while the attack is active, and then quickly move afterwards. We call that an auto cancel. Glide attacks are specifically interesting because almost the entirety of the move is in the window for an auto cancel, an incredibly useful tool to have while in disadvantaged state or trying to return to stage. Now, like I said, the glide is a relatively quick horizontal movement option, letting you cover a lot of space fairly quickly, but what's not as well known is that there are actually different core gliding mechanics for each character that can use it. Pit's glide is referenced as the lightest glide. You start with the highest default angle, meaning you're more horizontal compared to the other 2 characters at startup, and you also travel the fastest, albeit by a very small margin. Pit's glide attack is an upward slash that sends the opponent at an upwards angle. It has the same base knockback as Charizard, but slightly lower knockback scaling, which means it'll grow slightly stronger with higher percents. Charizard's glide, in stark contrast, is the heaviest glide. It has the highest number of startup frames of the 3, is by far the slowest, and Charizard just doesn't have access to the range of angles that the other 2 do. In poor man's terms, it's dog shit. It's not very good. His glide attack is like a barrel roll, and although it has the same base knockback and a very slightly higher knockback scaling than Pit's, it does send them at a more horizontal angle, which, to his credit, will technically kill earlier off the side of some stages. But there's very little disjoint in this attack, so what you see is what you get. And finally, we have Meta Knight. You didn't think this character could be any better than he already was, right? Well, Meta Knight's glide is barely slower than Pit's. It's essentially just as fast, but he has the least amount of startup frames, has the capability to reach significantly sharper angles than both Pit and Charizard, as sharp as going essentially straight vertical up or down, and Meta Knight's glide attack is also by far the most disjointed, covering an incredible amount of space in front of him. To keep it balanced, he has the lowest base knockback of the 3, but has significantly higher knockback scaling, which means that at higher percents, this move, despite being balanced, has essentially the same kill power as the other 2. All of this without even mentioning that he's the only character whose up B, the shuttle loop, automatically puts him into a glide. So he can glide 2 separate times before landing, both times being able to use the glide attack auto cancel. Gliding isn't all-powerful, however. If you glide after your final mid-air jump, which this basically just nerfs Charizard even more due to him having less jumps, you'll go into freefall once the glide animation is finished. This does balance it a bit, but it isn't big enough of a handicap for it to affect pretty much any other character except for Charizard. However, as strange as gliding is, it isn't the only niche mechanic introduced in Brawl. There are several other strange mechanics that fit into a pattern and only apply to a few characters. For example, Brawl introduced the crawling mechanic. Although a lot of the characters that can crawl have their animations influenced by some kind of reference to their game of origin, it's more or less just tacked on to most of the characters' kits as some kind of bonus movement mechanic. Only 4 characters of Brawl's cast were given the ability to wall cling, which is a small evolution on the wall jump mechanic introduced in Melee. Diddy Kong, Lucario, Sheik, and Squirtle, the fast, nimble, ninja-like characters, can all jump onto a wall and then, well, cling to it. You can't remain attached to the wall forever, but generally it's helpful in mixing up your recovery and helping you get back on stage. Many of these mechanics, alongside Pokemon Trainer Pokemon swapping and Zero Suit Samus's transformation, showcase Brawl and Smash in general's dedication to having small, niche interactions happen throughout the game. It's clear that they wanted Brawl to be an experience while you played it, but gliding never quite made the return. Perhaps they thought it was too niche of a mechanic, maybe it was too strong for the few characters that had it, or maybe they just wanted to move away from the more visually obvious parts of Brawl's gameplay, since Smaforsh was created in the same game engine. Whatever the reason, gliding is yet another mechanic that defined Brawl's unique playstyle so dramatically. It's another tool in Meta Knight's aerial kit to overwhelm the competition. But, most importantly, gliding is something the devs implemented so the game would be more fun. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and consider joining my Patreon or donating to my Ko-fi to directly support my work and the channel. You guys are the best, and like always, there's a lot more coming soon. See ya!